person to talk about. Ushes. We love ushes. We love ushes. And anything you want to ask me, I'm happy to talk. So when I'm the talker, that time just flew by. But when I'm the listener, oh, that might feel excruciating. Based on who you are culturally. So remember, this is our inclusion essential, right? Non-judgmental listening. If I can sit in the space and be fully present and really hear what you're talking about. In the northern Natal region of Africa, there was a participant in a session a few years ago who shared the story. I thought it was fantastic. And as she shared the story, she was telling the group about the greeting in the area of Africa. And she said when you walk in this particular region, the greeting that we use is, when you come in the room, I would say to you, Sawubona. Literal translation, I see you. She said, how do you think people are supposed to respond? I see you too, right? This close, but no. So the response is, so I've come in, Sawubona. The response is, Sikona, I am here. I see you, I am here. Which, that is the literal translation. The cultural translation, the cultural meaning in that is, when we are engaged in dialogue, I am fully present. I am fully present with you. I am fully present in what you want to say, what you want to talk about, right? So let's give this one more round. I'd like to introduce a little bit of a cultural flavor to it. I'm going to give you another round. Each of you has 1 minute again. I'll give you 1 minute for person A is going to start. I'll give you the topic in a second. I'll call time. We'll move into the role for the B person. The topic we're going to talk about is your personal interests or hobbies. So I think you might know a little something about those. So your personal interests, your hobbies, your family, whatever works for you. That's your topic, all right? However, there is one caveat. You know I've got to throw something out there. Here's the caveat. Here's what I'd like to ask you to do. Person A, please stay where you are. Person B, if you would please take one giant step towards person A. All right, here we go. Here we go, you ready? Hang on. Hang on. On the count of 3, you're person A, you're going to start telling person B about your personal interests or hobbies in your close range. Yes, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3, go. Person A.
And then just process the space.
Okay, stop. Okay, stop. Go to person B. Person B, you can start. Okay, stop. And step away from your partner. All right, take a breath, take a breath. Tell me what that one was like for you.
Weird.
Weird. Why was it weird?
Because I'm too close.
Too close.
I like my personal space.
She was in your personal space.
I'm very animated sometimes when I speak, so I didn't want to move because I didn't want to.
You can smack her. You can hit her accidentally.
Coffee today.
Okay.
So you can smell I like coffee.
Okay. All right. So I'm conscious of that. Beautiful. What else?
I had to do this from Smile because I want to see her face to face. It was just like, I'm like, hello.
So sometimes height can make a difference. Yes. All right, hang on, folks. Yes, ma'am.
It wasn't weird because we're all here together and kind of know each other. If it was a total stranger, I would have been, you're in my space.
So the context and the situation where I am and who's actually doing the talking can make a difference. All right, behind you and then the gentleman in the purple shirt.
Two things. One, there was like you could feel the energy. Whatever the emotion was about being that close, there was more. The energy was palpable, and also you couldn't help but look at for us straight in the eye, which to me raised the level of engagement in the conversation.
Ah, interesting.
For me, I had the opposite effect. I couldn't look at her; she was too close.
All right, all right.
Automatically uncomfortable.
All right, your partner?
Yeah. Like for me, as being partner B both times, it was like, am I going to have enough story? Is my story going to be better than their story? It's like, it's just not like that, but it's just like, I couldn't think of things to think of, I know you love to talk about yourself, but I'm just like, okay, what did they talk about? Should I talk about the same kind of thing, or, so.
So clearly I'm learning a very competitive culture here. Gentleman in the back. Gentleman in the back, and then we'll take this. You'll be our last comment.
So I noticed there was a completely different conversation going on aside from the verbal. Like, I had a very difficult time invading her space because it was very strongly communicated to me that I need a certain distance.
And can you share with us how that was communicated? Can you share with us how that was communicated?
I'm sorry?
How was that communicated?
I mean, it's just, it was a failure to, there was no eye contact. If I kind of was moving forward, I could feel her having a strong sense of wanting to move back. So I just could only go so far for my own comfort.
So in that moment, you were having some knee-jerk reaction yourself. All right, beautiful. Our last comment.
I love being close like that. It makes me feel connected with the person. So, unless they give me a visual to get back, I like to get close.
Yes. Scott and I paid attention to you, especially around your body language when you were doing this one. There were people standing like this. There were people standing like, you did a great job with this one. Defensive posturing, don't get any closer, you're close enough, right? I had some folks holding their hands behind their backs, like forcing, like very uncomfortably. Scott, anything you noticed in particular?
Well, we had our friend over here who's get a little closer, right? And then these two guys over here, which is a really common thing for men when they're that close, they actually turned, instead of face to face, they turned, what would that be? Perpendicular sideways to each other. That's very common for men. Yeah.
This is as close as I'm getting, right here.
Awesome.
So we offer this experience to you because how many times when I'm listening to someone does something like this get in the way and I don't even consciously pay attention to that, it just jumps in, and as my friend in the back said, I'm just not comfortable here based on how you're responding to what I'm saying. Somebody else says, this is totally comfortable for me, I love this. We were with the group once, there was a gentleman in the room from Brazil, anybody familiar with Brazilian culture? How close is the space bubble there? About 10 inches, 10 to 12 inches, right here. Right here. He was in the room with a woman from Canada. Anybody familiar with Canadian space bubble? About 4 feet. In the U.S., we like about an arm's length, about 3 feet, right? Canada's a little bit further. They're in the same meeting at the same time. We're having the same discussion. It was almost as if you could see a physical light bulb go off over the gentleman's head. He looked, and then he interrupted the class. He said, now I know why I don't like working with you. And the whole group stopped. They looked. She said, what are you talking about? He said, every time I come to your office, I'm trying to talk to you, and all you're doing is scooting away from me. You push further and further away, and I feel like every time we have a meeting, I have to chase you down. She said that makes total sense because I hate having meetings with you for the same reason. You get too close to me. So they had their learning in the moment of what was getting in the way, because that was getting in the way of them being able to communicate. That was getting in the way of them being able to share ideas. That was for them getting in the way of them being able to hear each other. So to close this out, I'd just like to share with you another sort of global piece to this, and that's, anybody in here speak Chinese or familiar with Chinese, the Chinese language? Anyway, are you familiar with this symbol? Do we tell us what it says? Say again? Ting.
In English, yeah.
In English, it's in Chinese, ting, and it means listening. Do you want to share? I'll invite you to share as well because you raised your hand. Can you share a little bit about the meaning of this particular symbol?
So in Chinese symbol, we automatically do strokes. So it's in different strokes, right? So every stroke that you do, well, from growing up, it means something. So with this word, so it's a word for listen. So before you listen, you have to do really, dramatic strokes, and in the end, it's always been that way.
So this is a symbol for listening, and it's a much more holistic way to listen, because again, all the strokes add meaning, they pull in meaning to this character. So the meaning for that particular character, based on the different strokes, is you have your ear for listening, right? So there's a piece of that symbol that is interpreted as the ear. There's also a piece there for king, meaning our conversation is the top, the king is the most important conversation. There's one for the eye, so that speaks to the body language and let me being fully present with you. There's also a place for the mind, so let me interpret what you're saying in the way that you intended to be heard. And then also the heart, and I think oftentimes in U.S. culture, we've been acculturated and taught not to talk about the warm fuzzy. Don't talk about the heart stuff. Don't talk about the feeling stuff. And for me to really hear you, oftentimes I have to engage the heart. So we just offer this to you as another way to look at how we listen to people. Non-judgmental listening is our inclusion essential. We want to listen with ting. I want to listen in a holistic way. And Scott's going to take us to another activity where you can actually practice that. So thank you for this.
Thanks a lot. Slide back to
take
seat real
your
quick.
seats.
We're going to keep moving. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shalonda.
All right, so let's round out the mental lock of that's not my area by doing one of my favorite creativity exercises. I call it a mashup because I'm a Gleek. And if you're a Gleek, you know what a mashup is, right? Anyone? Bueller? Yeah. It's, on Glee they take two songs that normally don't seem like they go together and they figure out how to mash them up, and it's like, wow, those two songs are really cool. So we're going to do a mashup. It's, you can do this in a number of ways. You can actually, I've done this before at college campuses where I just have a bucket of toys and I ask 3 volunteers to choose 3 different toys, and then I have the teams take those 3 ideas and mash them together to create an event for their organization. And at first it seems so crazy, but then you see the ideas that come out of taking a ball, an umbrella, and a doll, and the people kind of riff on those for a while, and before you know it, there's some really creative ideas that are coming out of the mashup. So on this mashup, I called Melanie, and I said, give me an idea for the mashup, and she gave me the tires on a car because she's in the market for a car. She's been thinking about what kind of tires she wants on the car. She asked me what I would offer, and believe it or not, I said aromatherapy because I meditate, I use incense, and I've been kind of into lately the effects of smells on our senses. So these 2 ideas, the tires on a car and aromatherapy, I'm going to ask you at your table to mash those 2 ideas together, which is really weird when we got the ideas. It's like insane. But what if, when the tires on your car rolled around, aromatherapy was released? That's when we got our random ideas, that's kind of what came up. So at your table, I'm going to ask you to use a creativity technique called the 6 thinking hats. It was created by Edward de Bono. We use it all the time at Connexa. IBM has used it to eliminate a lot of unnecessary meetings. I'll share whether you think that's a good idea or a bad idea to have aromatherapy tires. Go, you have 1 minute just to go around your table. Good idea, bad idea? Don't share why yet, just share good idea, bad idea. give a thumbs up if you personally think it's a good idea. Okay, maybe like a fifth of the group, if that. Do thumbs down if you think it's a bad idea. Okay, Melanie and I, we chose two bad things, I think. Okay, but let's stick with it. Let's stick with it. The yellow hat is the positive aspects of the idea. So for just 1 minute, someone keep track of the ideas. Only listen with Ting while people are offering these, but only voices that can be heard are positive aspects of having tires that release aromatherapy. Ready, set, go. Someone keep a list at the table.
It'd be great for pedestrians.
There you go.
Okay, right, so that it's sun is out there and it's positive for people. Bring it out. I don't know, that attracted, it's something to connect with the squirrels and birds, and maybe they it caused a reaction to them to
Get out of the road.
yeah, get right, get off the road, right. It's like, oh, I've traveled too far from the woods, I must return.
Depending on the smell of the tires, it may actually increase sales for tire companies. So it might be like different companies would have different smells that they sell.
Tires was like this men's cologne must, right, to attract the female on that day to go out and
We got 5.
All right, take 30 more seconds. Only positive ideas. Listen with Ting. Don't criticize other people's ideas.
Different smells, smell for different wear.
All right. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. I'll pull you back together right now. How many of you on your list have more than 5 ideas? More than 5 positive ideas? Okay. Does anyone have, if you worked in a tire showroom, it would smell a whole lot better than what it does now? If you've ever been to National Tire Wholesalers, you smell that chemical, rubbery smell. What's the best positive idea one of your tables has? What's yours? Yeah, you're driving on the interstate and it just smells so good and it relaxes you, right? What's another one? More interesting. It's such a good experience to be in your garage with your car that you just want to be out there all the time. Yeah. That's reminding me of that show, My Strange Addiction, the guy that has an interesting relationship with his car. Did y'all see that? Yeah. Yeah, never mind. We will go there in another class. Yeah. What's another reason it's a good idea?
Maybe it could lead to a way to develop biodegradable tires.
All right, so maybe the one idea could lead to another idea, and we could end up with tires that over time, hopefully not while we're driving them, but when they're in the junk pile, they just dissolve. 2 more ideas. Okay, so it might actually affect the environment in a positive way. Maybe we could do something with climate change somehow. Who knows, right? And one other idea at this table? Right, so maybe, folks my age may not like it, but maybe someone else who, Buddhist meditators might suddenly be buying a lot of cars. So let's go to the black hat. What do you think the black hat step's going to be? Yeah, it's not to cast any aspersion on the color black, but we're going to look at it as why won't the idea work? So just take a quick 1 minute. Why will this idea never work? Listen with Ting. Keep a list of the ideas.
Blended smells like they can do.
Yeah, the blended, yeah, especially out in the not smell so good. Yeah.
Dumb idea. Throw that out there. It's a dumb idea.
All right, just in the interest of time, we'll stop there. You probably have, how many of you have more than 5 ideas why it won't work? So maybe 10 people have that. We're not going to do the other 3 steps, but you will use these later in the workshop. The green idea, imagine you were back at your team, back at work, and you were brainstorming a new idea. The 4th step would be, what are some alternatives to the plan that we already have? So you get down to the why won't it work, why will it work, what are some other ideas? That's the green hat. Then you get to the white hat. It's important in a company like US Cellular. What are the facts so that when we present our idea to our manager, we have some fact-based things to show, buying patterns, things that we've seen on the store floor that customers are asking for. Let's come up with the facts. And then the last step is, what are the steps, the blue hat? What do we need to do to put the idea into place? So we'll have a chance to practice this. So guess what? It's a real product. It's made by a Korean car company. Right now, it's one of the most successful sellers in Australia, and the company that's selling them in Australia thinks that it's time to export them to the United States. So we tricked you a little bit. It wasn't Melanie's choice and my choice. We use this one all the time. But it just shows that good ideas come from all places, and sometimes it takes mashing things up that are from different areas to get a product that gets out into the marketplace. So soon you might be driving lavender-scented tires. Who knows, right? Who knows? So the third and final inclusion essential, kind of gnarly looking at that brain up there, but it's really getting us thinking about the fact that our brains are incredibly complex. They do imagination, they do number crunching, they do blue sky thinking, they put things in sequence. Our brain is responsible for interpersonal connections. It's that complexity of the brain. We only use a small percentage of it. We have some parts of our brain that are more developed than others. We tend to go to those as our go-to places, our comfort zone places. And when it comes to creativity, we actually need the whole brain. You know, we need to have all the perspectives. We need to have all 6 hats. So remember, all those things are in your brain. We don't use them all the time. So when you're trying to come up with a creative idea in your teams, when you're trying to work with customers to find a creative solution to their problem that they've brought to you, just remember, dig into all parts of your brain, pull people in if they're more of a numbers person than you, more imaginative than you, use the resources around you. We call that leveraging diversity. You've talked about that at this conference. Leverage the diversity around you to get that full perspective. Use the 6 thinking hats as a method. It's a really good method to make sure that you're hitting on different parts of your brain function. So we're going to use this technique in a few minutes. I don't need to review it again, because this is your assignment. We've been building this whole presentation to get to this assignment. What your table's assignment is to choose one of the 3 inclusion essentials that we learned today. The first one is, we're all biased. It's really natural that we have biases. We grew up in a culture that taught us those things over and over again. We've been programmed to have those thoughts that pop up in our mind. That's a dominant inclusion concept that we want you to consider. The second one is the power of listening. When somebody really is listened to, non-judgmentally, with Ting, it allows them to be themselves, fully who they are, and the feeling they walk away with as a customer or a colleague is that I feel included. Listening is at the core of inclusion. If somebody thinks that you're listening to them and you're judging them, you're not listening, you've tuned them out because of whatever reason, they're not going to feel included. So listening really at the core of things. And then the third is brainstorming using multiple perspectives. We're just using the 6 thinking hats as one way to do that because you had some practice using that. But here's your mission. As a table, choose one of those ideas and then create a plan. You have a worksheet in your packet that we've given you that is your kind of assignment. Create a plan with specific actions that you all individually can go back to your regions and implement over the next year so that when we come back here next year, the understanding of the natural nature of bias or better listening or better brainstorming has worked its way into the way we do things. We can literally say that we've been change agents in the organization and we've impacted the way we do business at US Cellular. Because you signed on for this, this assignment to be on the Inclusion Council, now we're going to put you to work. Even more work than you've already done. So this is your mission. You have a chance to impact the culture over the next year. So your worksheet is the guide. You're basically going to chat this through, use everything you learned today. Good listening. There's more than one right answer. Use the 6 thinking hats. If you want to, I'll put that back on the board. But at the end of 20 minutes, we'd like you to have that worksheet filled out with your names of the people on your team on there, with the action steps that you've chosen, and at the bottom, how will we know 1 year from now if we've been successful driving that idea into the way we do things in our business, with our customers, with each other? Does anyone have questions about the assignment before we release you, before we release the Kraken? Okay, that's only one Clash of the Titans person, right? Anyone have any questions? Table group, yeah. You're coming up with table group. You're choosing one, and so the idea has to be translatable into. Oh shoot! I had the name. You don't call it your headquarters. You call it your regional support. RSO, Regional Support Office, right? So if you work in the RSO, the idea has to work there. If you work out in Seattle in a store, it has to work there. So that's part of your thinking is which one are you going to work on as a team? What's the plan to make it happen? Cool, great question. Any other questions for clarification before we release the Kraken? You're like, what the heck is the Kraken? Okay, so you have 20 minutes. This is what you're going to do actually. At the end of 20 minutes, we're actually going to do a fast ending. Then we're going to go to lunch, and at lunch, Gina and Derek are going to hear your ideas and create a plan to take the funnel of all those ideas and melt it down to something that's manageable. So you're throwing a lot of ideas into the funnel right now with your process. Cool? You got the power. Go for it. We'll wander around and support you. To wrap up, 1 more minute.
1 more minute. 1 more minute.